we have to do is see the complexity of this problem and the vastness of it. And then we will realize that we are going to have to forget some of these so-called organizational principles and organizational aims and objectives and realize that the real principle, the real aim, and the real objective is a solution to the problem.
A police state. Just make the Negro neighborhood a police state. It's the most heavily patrolled. It has more police in it than any other neighborhood. Yet it has more crime in it than any other neighborhood. How can you have more cops and more crime? Why? It shows you that the cops must be in cahoots with the criminals. You make my point. That as long as a white man does it, it's all right. A black man is supposed to have no feelings. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We want it now, or we don't get anybody to death.
So whatever kind of action program can be devised to get us the things that are ours by right, then I'm for that kind of action no matter what the action is. I don't think when a man is being criminally treated that some criminal has the right to tell that man what tactics to use to get the criminal off his back. When a criminal starts misusing me, I am going to use whatever necessary to get that criminal off my back. And the injustice that has been inflicted upon Negroes in this country by Uncle Sam is criminal. Don't blame a cracker in Georgia for your injustices. The government is responsible for the injustices. The government can bring these injustices to halt. And what you and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us.
Importance in terms of Rule 130 in the name of Mr. J.S. Malema on the decision by the United States government to halt aid to South Africa and the response thereto. I now recognize the Honorable Malema.
Deputy Speaker, on the 20th of September 2001, former President of United States of America, George Bush, declared what became known as the War on Terror on Iraq and Afghanistan, stating that, I quote, "It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated." What followed was a massive disinformation campaign to justify the 2003 invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan under the pretext of locating and destroying weapons of mass destruction. Decades later, no such weapons were ever found. This invasion was about minerals and oil reserves, not weapons of mass destruction. Iraq and Afghanistan have never recovered. Cuba, Libya, Venezuela, and Chile are examples of nations that have suffered from US interventions because of their socialist policies, justified by false intelligence to advance imperialism. Cuba has endured decades of sanctions for nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy, supporting African liberation and socialism, while Libya was destroyed because Gaddafi rejected US dominance. We raise these historical facts because history must guide us in everything we do. When Donald Trump declares that, I open quote, bad things are happening in South Africa without evidence, we must not assume that the USA is misinformed. Instead, we must question the real intention behind such statement. After Trump's remarks, the US froze foreign aid globally under the pretext of assessing alignment with the policy outlook. For South Africa, this meant PEPFAR funding of HIV/AIDS response was under threat. On 26 February 2025, the freeze became permanent, terminating funding indefinitely. The US aggression towards South Africa is nothing more than Israel's revenge for our moral stance in support of Palestine. Meanwhile, some of us have been labeled international criminals, a designation used before the West assassinates those who opposed its agenda. Before invading the nations, the US always fabricates human rights violation to justify intervention. Today, same tactics are being used against South Africa. The growing calls by right-wing groups for foreign funding to establish independent states and to be armed by foreign interests must be recognized as part of a broader plan. This is the early stage of economic isolation, leading ultimately to military intervention. Next, AGOA will be terminated, escalating tensions between USA and South Africa. Our government must dismiss opportunistic African and racist groups exploiting US imperialism to fund their racist fantasies of an independent state. That will never happen. We will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America. Deputy Speaker, Trump and the USA are not demonstrating strength. The USA is merely displaying an advanced stage of capitalism, which is imperialism. Trump engages in transactional and manipulative relationships with the world like it is his backyard. The hostility towards South Africa does not come from fraudulent boers spreading disinformation, but from America's imperialist agenda. The USA, home of the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies, agencies that fabricate evidence to justify the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and orchestrated the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, Patrice Lumumba, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X, cannot now claim to be victims of disinformation from a minor racist group based in Orania. The USA has openly embraced the golden age of imperialism, extending its power through threats and the prevention and termination of foreign aid. In response, our government foolishly seeks to explain our policies to a maniacal president, as if the USA were a victim of misinformation. The USA knows exactly what it's doing and why it is doing it. At a Goldman Sachs event of the 27th of February 2025, South Africa President Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa stated, I quote, Trump got the wrong end of the stick of the country's land policies. I completely reject this notion. The USA, home of Elon Musk's platform, X platform, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, nothing else. The USA does not believe there is a white genocide or land grabs in South Africa. These lies are useful tools to justify economic aggression and seek to weaken our moral authority to condemn Israel's genocide. Foreign aid has always been a tool for Western imperialism and control. It must end.
Administration, I've known these presidents, I've known their teams. Nothing changed much from Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump 1 to Biden. Maybe they got worse step by step. Biden was the worst in my view. Maybe also because he was not compos mentis for the last couple of years. And I say that seriously, not as a snarky remark. The American political system is a system of image. It's a system of media manipulation every day. It is a PR system. And so you could have a president that basically doesn't function and have that in power for 2 years and actually have that president run for re-election. And one damn thing is he had to stand on a stage for 90 minutes by himself. And that was the end of it. Had it not been that mistake, he would have gone on to have his candidacy, whether he was sleeping after 4 p.m. in the afternoon or not. So this is actually the reality. Everybody goes along with it. It's impolite to say anything that I'm saying because we don't speak the truth about almost anything in this world right now. So these are projects. These are long-term events. These aren't, is it Clinton? Is it Bush? Is it Obama? That's the boring way to look at American politics, as the day-to-day game. But that's not what American politics is. So the next round of NATO enlargement came in 2004 with 7 more countries, the 3 Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Slovakia. At this point, Russia was pretty damn upset. This was a complete violation of the post-war order agreed with German reunification. Essentially, it was a fundamental trick or defection of the U.S. from a cooperative arrangement, is what it amounted to, because they believe in unipolarity. So the decision was taken in 1994 to expand NATO all the way to Ukraine. This is a project. This is not one administration or another. This is a U.S. government project that started more than 30 years ago. The idea was that there would be Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia as the Black Sea littoral that would deprive Russia of any international status by blocking the Black Sea and essentially by neutralizing Russia as more than a local power. Brzezinski's completely clear about this. And before Brzezinski, there was Mackinder, and who owns the island of the world owns the world. So this project goes back a long time. I think it goes back basically to Palmerston. So this project began, and we had a continuity of government for 30 years until maybe yesterday, perhaps. 30 years of a project. Ukraine and Georgia were the keys to the project. Why? Because America learned everything it knows from the British. And so we are the wannabe British Empire. And what the British Empire understood in 1853, Lord Palmerston, is that you surround Russia in the Black Sea and you deny Russia access to the Eastern Mediterranean. And all you're watching is an American project to do that in the 21st century. In 1997, Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote The Grand Chessboard. That is not just musings of Mr. Brzezinski. That is the present.
Okay, once again, good afternoon. This is Frank. The show going to start at 1 p.m. Again, let me clarify this. This is not a show where we are presenting or trying to bring an awareness to our people, where we are taking one side. So this show, again, is not about Russia and it's not about the USA. This show is about the truth and to awakening the African continent and the African nations around the world. African leaders who still want to be puppet. This is why we bring some of these information, some of these shows. African leader who still want to receive the crumb. African leader who still want to receive the aid, the so-called aid. That is why we play some of these videos in order to back up what we are about to speak about. And these are some of the things or the reason why we bring video like this. But it's not to say we are speaking in reference or in support of Russia. We don't care. It's not about Russia, and it's not even about the US either. It's not about any Western nation. It's about how we can educate our people to bring them to light in order to be able to make decisions that will affect the life of the African people, of the African continent, and of the African nation. That's why we are here. Other than that, we wouldn't have been here if only our leaders were doing the right thing. Our African leaders, let me be specific. If only our African leader, both home and abroad. When I said abroad, I'm also saying South America, and that is African continent, and any nation of black. If only they were doing the right thing, I don't think we'll be here discussing anything like that. So this show is not for Russia or against the US, because as you can see in the video, we don't care. It's about awareness to our people on how the war is viewed. And African leaders should stop thinking that this war is unipolar war. This war is global war. This war have never been unipolar. This war have never been global. This war have been national or nationalistic perspective or view. They're thinking that Africans, the only way we can survive is to collaborate with the rest of the other world. We will never survive. You will be delusional or you'll be hallucinating, thinking that the only way Africa can move, or the only way African people can move, or black people can move, is to come along or to bring along the other people. The other people don't think that way. Chinese don't think that way. That will be specific here. All right? The West don't think that way. So we should start also thinking the way the other people think and do things to affect the livelihood of their people. Once again, this is WCC. The show going to start at around 1 p.m. Keep watching.
Presentation of the decisions of the United States government explained to the public, which is how these books work. And the book describes the eastward enlargement of Europe and of NATO as simultaneous events. And there's a good chapter in that book that says, what will Russia do as Europe and NATO expand eastward? And I knew Zbig Brzezinski personally. He was very nice to me. I was advising Poland. He was a big help. He was a very nice and smart man, and he got everything wrong. So in 1997, he wrote in detail why Russia could do nothing but accede to the eastward expansion of NATO and Europe. In fact, he says the eastward expansion of Europe, and not just Europe, but NATO. This was a plan, a project. And he explains how Russia will never align with China. Unthinkable. Russia will never align with Iran. Russia has no vocation other than the European vocation. So as Europe moves east, there's nothing Russia can do about it. So says yet another American strategist. Is it any question why we're in war all the time? Because one thing about America is we always know what our counterparts are going to do, and we always get it wrong. And one reason we always get it wrong is that in game theory that the American strategists play, you don't actually talk to the other side. You just know what the other side's strategy is. It's wonderful. It saves so much time. You don't need any diplomacy. In 2008, as everybody knows, our former CIA director, William Burns, sent a long message back to Condoleezza Rice. Niet means niet, about expansion. This we know from Julian Assange, because believe me, not one word is told to the American people about anything, or to you, or by any of your newspapers these days. So we have Julian Assange to thank, but we can read the memo in detail. As you know, Viktor Yanukovych was elected in 2010 on the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. I know, I was there during these years. What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease to 2042 for Sevastopol Naval Base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing like that. So as everybody recalls, because we just had the Munich Security Conference last week in 2007, President Putin said, stop, enough, stop now. And of course, what that meant was in 2008, the United States jammed down Europe's throat enlargement of NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia. This is a long-term project. I listened to Mr. Saakashvili in New York in May of 2008, and I walked out, called Sonia and said, this man's crazy. And a month later, a war broke out because the United States told this guy, we saved Georgia. And he stands at the Council on Foreign Relations, says, Georgia's in the center of Europe. Well, it ain't, ladies and gentlemen. It's not in the center of Europe. And the most recent events are not helpful for Georgia, for its safety, and your MPs going there, or MEPs going there, and European politicians. That gets Georgia destroyed. That doesn't save Georgia. That gets Georgia destroyed, completely destroyed. So I had a long and frustrating phone call with Sullivan. I was standing out in the freezing cold. I happened to be trying to have a ski day. And there I was, Jake, don't have the war. Oh, there'll be no war, Jeff. We know a lot of what happened the next month, which is that they refused to negotiate. The stupidest idea of NATO is the so-called open door policy. Are you kidding? NATO reserves the right to go where it wants without any neighbor having any say whatsoever. Well, I tell the Mexicans and the Canadians, don't try it. You know, Trump may want to take over Canada. So Canada could say to China, why don't you build a military base in Ontario? I wouldn't advise it. And the United States would not say, well, it's an open door. That's their business. I mean, they can do what they want. That's not our business. But grown-ups in Europe repeat this. In Europe, in your commission, your high representative. This is nonsense stuff. This is not even baby geopolitics. This is just not thinking at all. I'm telling you, if I can give you my honest view, they're not very bright people. And I dealt with them for more than 40 years. They talk to themselves. They don't talk to anybody else. They play game theory. In non-cooperative game theory, you don't talk to the other side. You just make your strategy. This is the essence of game theory. It's not negotiation theory. It's not peacemaking theory. It is unilateral, non-cooperative theory, if you know formal game theory. That's what they play. It started at the Rand Corporation. That's what they still play. In 2019, there's a paper by Rand, How Do We Extend Russia? Do you know they wrote a paper, which Biden followed, How Do We Annoy Russia? That's literally the strategy. How do we annoy Russia? We're trying to provoke it, trying to make it break apart, maybe have regime change, maybe have unrest, maybe have economic crisis. That's what you call your ally. Are you kidding? On the Middle East, by the way, the U.S. completely handed over foreign policy to Netanyahu 30 years ago. The Israel lobby dominates American politics. Just have no doubt about it. I could explain for hours how it works. It's very dangerous. Europe has gone silent about the JCPOA and Iran. Netanyahu's greatest dream in life is a war between the United States and Iran. He's not given up, and it's not impossible that that would come also. And that's because the U.S. in this regard does not have an independent foreign policy. It is run by Israel. It's tragic. It's amazing, by the way. And it could end. Trump may say that he wants foreign policy back. Maybe. I'm hoping that it's the case. I'm hoping that Trump will not destroy his administration and worse, the Palestinian people because of Netanyahu, who I regard as a war criminal, properly indicted by the ICC, and that needs to be told no more. that there will be a state of Palestine on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967, according to international law, as the only way for peace. It's the only way for Europe to have peace on your borders with the Middle East, is the two-state solution. There is only one obstacle to it, by the way, and that is the veto of the United States in the UN Security Council. So if you want to have some influence, tell the United States, drop the veto. You are together with 180 countries in the world. The only ones that oppose a Palestinian state are the United States, Israel, Micronesia, Nauru, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Mr. Malay, and Paraguay. So this is a place where Europe could have a big influence. This idea that Putin is reconstructing the Russian Empire, this is childish propaganda. Excuse me. If anyone knows the day-to-day and year-to-year history, this is childish stuff. Childish stuff seems to work better than adult stuff. So no designs at all. The United States decided this man must be overthrown. It's called a regime change operation. There have been about 100 of them by the United States.
Now, sorry, folks. I know they should have me start. This is just an introduction video, right? But I'm going to dive into this a little bit. You know, to some of you so-called Negro Africans, right? You have forgotten to know that systematically, this is how your leaders have been removed from power by the CIA and the FBI. You have forgotten to know that this is how your leaders, some of your leaders who had good intention for your nation, for your country, and for the continent. This is how exactly the United States removed them, because they do not want the good for Africa and for Black nation. And let's be frank here. What you see happening, it is not by coincidence. What you saw happen in the past, it wasn't by coincidence. It was something that was planned by the same U.S. that in 15 years' time, in 20 years' time, this is where the U.S. is going to be. And then if we don't do this, this is where we are going to fall. So by that time, we should be prepared to do this. So what you see happening, like you saw or you heard Jeffrey explaining about Russia. Now, some of you that don't do your research, and this is why we don't want to come here, or WCC don't want to come here and speak, right? We bring out things or videos of people who have been in the game, who know the history, who have worked, so that you can hear it from the horses themselves more than to come here and just talk. Because we have a bunch of African fools, journalists, uneducated one who think they're educated, who will come and speak here. Oh, Russia is this. Again, this is not about even speaking for Russia, but it's about the truth, and the truth that will set we Africans and the African continent and African nation free. All right? Now, some of you fool Africans who think you are educated, or who think you are journalists, or who think you know the subject matter, you will be sitting there blaming Russia, not knowing Russia is fighting for her integrity. Russia is fighting for her right. Russia is fighting for her land. Russia is fighting for the name Russia. Russia is fighting for the identity Russian. And Russia is fighting to preserve her territory. When will you so-called Negro happy African fight for your territory? Fight for your identity. Fight for your continent. Fight for your nation. But some of you will sit down there and blame Russia. Oh, Russia is doing this. Russia is dead. But we are going to discuss this today. And this is not about speaking in favor of Russia, but we want you to see the lies of the U.S., the game of the U.S. Now, I'm not saying the lies or the game. You heard it from Jeffrey, right? I'm just repeating what he said. U.S. does not practice democracy And we're going to show some of that here today. The U.S. does not even believe in democracy. But you so-called African leaders will get up. Oh, the U.S. is a model of democracy. The U.S. days and the international community are watching. Bullshit. International community.
States, many in your countries, and many all over the world. That's what the CIA does for a living. Okay? Please know it. It's a very unusual kind of foreign policy. Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Can't talk to the other side. They're evil, implacable foes. That's the only model of foreign policy we ever hear from our mass media. And the mass media repeats it entirely because it's completely suborned by the US government. But in America, if you don't like the other side, you don't negotiate with them, you try to overthrow them, preferably covertly. If it doesn't work covertly, you do it overtly.
Okay, you heard what Jeffrey said. And this is what exactly goes on the African continent. Once an African leader, then this is how they remove Kwame Nkrumah, and we're going to see that today here again as well from the current elected president of Ghana, John Mahama. Your Honor, we are watching you. This is how they remove Patrick Lumumba. In fact, they kill him. This is how the CIA killed Patrick Lumumba. This is how the CIA killed Thomas Sankara. This is how the CIA killed Amilcar Cabral. And other great leaders. This is the same way they killed Malcolm X, Dr. King. So why would we come today and want to blame Russia when you so-called a Negro African slave don't know what is going on? You don't even know who is your enemy. But these are countries that know exactly who their enemies are. And that's one of the areas we Africans fall short. We do not know who the enemies are. We do not know who we're supposed to fight. We do not know who we're supposed to be skeptical of. We don't know. Those that we need to be skeptical of, those are the people we make our friends. Everybody know their enemies in the world, except Africans.
You always say it's not our fault. They're the aggressor. They're the other side. They're Hitler. That comes up every 2 or 3 years. Whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's Assad, whether it's Putin, that's very convenient. That's the only foreign policy explanation the American people are ever given anywhere. Now, when the Maidan occurred, I was called immediately. Oh, Professor Sachs, the new Ukrainian prime minister would like to see you to talk about the economic crisis, because I'm pretty good at that. And so I flew to Kiev and I was walked around the Maidan and I was told how the U.S. paid the money for all the people around the Maidan. Spontaneous revolution of dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, please, where do all these media outlets come from? Where does all this organization come from? Where do all these buses come from? Where do all these people called in come from? Are you kidding? This is organized effort. And it's not a secret, except to citizens of Europe and the United States. Everyone else understands it quite clearly. Now, in 2014, the U.S. worked actively to overthrow Yanukovych. Everybody knows the phone call intercepted by my Columbia University colleague, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador Peter Piot. You don't get better evidence. The Russians intercepted her call and they put it on the internet. Listen to it. It's fascinating. I know all these people.
Now, again, let me make this clear. This is not against any nation and for any nation. This is about the knowledge and the awareness to the African people, both home and abroad. Now, do you wonder why there have been over 20 assassination attempts against Ibrahim Traoré in Ophir? First in the history of the world, or maybe perhaps I would say in Africa, for a president to have about 20 assassination attempts back by the West in Ophir. Do you know why? It's because those nations, the AES nation, have Russia to their side, to whom she is very sophisticated. You heard what Jeffrey said. An assassination attempt that was supposed to happen to another president, a call that was made by Victoria Nuland, the CIA again, to assassinate this president, a South American president. But that call was intercepted by the same Russia, and it informed this leader or this nation of what was about or is about to take place. That's the same way also with the help of this nation and with the citizens of the Sahel, the citizens of Burkina Faso being on alert because they love their president. That's how Ibrahim Traoré, in less than 2 years or 2 years, he have survived over 20 assassination attempts. One of the most recent one, where about $8 billion was put into it to remove this man. And yet then Africans, we have not yet come to recognize even these African leaders, these corrupt and dumb-headed African leaders, that we have one of them, who is the president for Africa, Al-Assad, that was calling on John Mahama, invited John Mahama in Africa to convince the Sahel leaders to come back to ECOWAS. I think instead of you, this go to you, Al-Assad, instead of you convincing President John Mahama to bring back the Sahel leader to ECOWAS, you should be asking yourself, what have ECOWAS done wrong? Where have ECOWAS gone wrong? What should ECOWAS do going forth? Why this leader left ECOWAS? It's not about you convincing John Mahama to go convince this leader to come up to ECOWAS. That's not an issue the African youth or the African masses are talking about or are looking at. The question you should be asking, why they left? It's not about they should come back. It's about why they left. And this is how you African leaders don't understand anything about policy making. All you understand is about aid. The time you taking to convince this leader to come back, you should be asking yourself the failures of ECOWAS. Why would this leader want to come back when you, the same ECOWAS Al-Assad, wanted to go invade these people with the help of U.S. assistance or U.S. aid? With the help of Europe aid to go and assassinate this leader, to go and wage war on this nation, another African nation. You should be asking yourself, ECOWAS, shame on you. You should be asking yourself, what ECOWAS need to do to apologize to this leader? What ECOWAS need to do different if this leader want to come and find? But don't be asking someone to go bring these people back. It seems that you have not recognized your mistake. And this message go to President John Mahama. Please, don't be like Nana Akufo-Addo, who started on a path that African recognize and say, yes, we have Pan-Africanists. And then later, Nana Akufo-Addo became a slave to the slave master. He became a puppet. We know you are not going to be like Nana Akufo-Addo. We believe so, and we want to believe so. Please, be that Pan-Africanist. Do not allow these slaves to tell you they made their mistake for this leader to leave. Let them fight on the ECWA because they know the path of ECWA is destruction. They are destroying ECWA. It is these African leaders who are destroying the African continent, who are destroying African entity that need to stand for Africa. And they all must go. So please, John Mahama, Your Honor, we back you. Mama Ghana is a noble nation. So please, do not take the first step of the slave Nana Akufo-Addo. Let's continue here.
By the way, by doing that, they all got promoted in the Biden administration. That's the job. Then came Minsk, and especially Minsk II, which, by the way, was modeled on South Tyrolean autonomy. And the Belgians could have related to Minsk II very well. It said there should be autonomy for the Russian-speaking regions in the east of Ukraine. It was supported unanimously by the UN Security Council. Trump won, raised the armaments. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass. There was no Minsk II agreement. And then Biden came into office. And again, I know all these people. I used to be a member of the Democratic Party. I now am strictly sworn to be a member of no party because both are the same anyway. And because this is, the Democrats became complete wars over time, and there was not one voice about peace, just like most of your parliamentarians, the same way. The United States and Ukraine decided it was not to be enforced. Germany and France, which were the guarantors of the Normandy process, let it go. And it was absolutely another direct American unipolar action with Europe, as usual, playing completely useless subsidiary role, even though it was a guarantor of the agreement. So at the end of 1991, Putin put on the table a last effort in two security agreement drafts, one with Europe and one with the United States. The U.S. put on the table December 15, 2021. I had an hour call with Jake Sullivan in the White House begging, Jake, avoid the war. You can avoid the war. All you have to do is say NATO will not enlarge to Ukraine. And he said to me, oh, NATO's not going to enlarge to Ukraine. Don't worry about it. I said, Jake, say it publicly. No, we can't say it publicly. I said, Jake, you're going to have a war over something that isn't even going to happen? He said, don't worry, Jeff, there will be no war. These are not very bright people. Lots of important things are now on offer and on the table. And I believe that the war will end quickly because of this. And this will be at least one blessing in a very, very difficult time. Exactly what the settlement will be, I think, is now only a question of the territorial issues. And that is whether it is the complete four oblasts, including all of the Kherson and Zaporizhia, or whether it is on the contact line and how all of this will be negotiated. I'm not in the room of the negotiation, so I can't really say more, but the basis will be there will be territorial concessions, there will be neutrality, there will be security guarantees for Ukraine, for all parties. There will be, at least with the U.S., an end of the economic sanctions. But what counts, of course, is Europe and Russia. I know the Russian leaders, many of them quite well. They are good negotiators, and you should negotiate with them, and you should negotiate well with them. I would ask them some questions. I would ask them, what are the security guarantees that can work so that this war ends permanently? what are the security guarantees for the Baltic states? What should be done? Part of the process of negotiation is actually to ask the other side about your concerns, not just to know what they know as you think is true, but actually to ask, we have a real problem. We have a real worry. What are the guarantees? Well, I want to know the answers also. By the way, I know Minister Lavrov, for 30 years. I regard him as a brilliant foreign minister. Talk with him, negotiate with him, get ideas, put ideas on the table, put counter ideas on the table. I don't think all of this can be settled by pure reason because of oneself. You settle wars by negotiating and understanding what are the real issues, and you don't call the other side a liar when they express their issues. You work out what the implications of that are for the mutual benefit of peace. I think that there are, and maybe there will be, a restoration of nuclear arms negotiations, which would be extraordinarily positive. I think that there are tremendously important issues for Europe to negotiate directly with Russia. And so I would urge President Costa and the leadership of Europe to open direct discussions with President Putin, because European security is on the table. I'll just make a couple complaints. First, Europe is not NATO, as I said. I thought Stoltenberg was the worst, but I was wrong. It just keeps getting worse. Could someone in NATO stop talking, for God's sake, about more war? And could NATO stop speaking for Europe and Europe stop thinking it's NATO? This is the first absolute point. Second, I'm sorry, but your high representative vice presidents need to become diplomats. Of course, you don't yet have a constitution for Europe, which really underpins a European foreign policy. And it can't be by unanimity. There has to be a structure in which Europe can speak as Europe, even with some dissent, but with a European policy. I don't want to oversimplify how to get.
All right, once again, this is Frank. Welcome back to the show, the Sunday edition of WCC at 1 p.m. This video is very important. There's a reason why I allow it to play for that long. Again, there have to be an European policy where Europeans can speak for themselves. Where is that African policy where Africans can speak for themselves? But the dumb-headed African, their policy will come from the Washington, D.C., their policy will come from China, their policy will come from England, their policy will come from Germany, their policy will come from Japan, where you see all these Africans head of state being packed on buses to go to Washington, D.C. to speak about African issues. To go to Europe or Buckingham Palace to speak about African issues. And to say there are no places on the African continent to speak about African issues. Anyway, once again, this is Frank. I am your host. Welcome. Please share the live. Like and share. Speaking of British now, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes the colonial mentality have to come in, right? Exactly. But I'm not a colonialist. No, not a neo. I am a Pan-Africanist. All right? Now, today's topic, it says, U.S. Congress says Russia did not invade Ukraine. Oh, I told you Africans, some of you, they're saying Russia invaded Ukraine. Why not, in quote, the U.S. today refuse to say Russia invaded Ukraine? All right. These are the people, you African leaders, want to ask for leadership idea These are the people you African journalists want to photocopy of BBC or model, NBC model, CNN model. But you just heard what Jeffrey said. No Western media is an independent media. They all work for the US government. They work for the CIA. They work for you, or how they call it, EU. They have to be in line of what is about to happen, because they have to explain in order to convince the public. So they work in hands with the CIA, with the government of that country, of the US, of Europe, because everything they do, it should not jeopardize the interest of Washington, D.C. It should not jeopardize the interest of Europe, the interest of the nation they call their nation, their continent they call their continent. But you African journalists, what have you done that will not jeopardize the interest of your country, your continent? But you will come and expose what you are not supposed to expose. And then keep what you need to expose. Because most of you African journalists that work with BBC, that work with CNN, that work with whatsoever these Western media in Africa there, you do not speak on what you need to speak about, because you work for your colonial master. So you must speak on what they want you to speak about and how they want you to narrate the story. Now, let me say this, maybe in a very profound and different way before they come after me. You know, you should, look, listen, let's be frank here. With all what is going on with Donald Trump, right? Whether you like it or not, you heard Jeffrey, what he said. He was once a Democrat, but now he's neither any of them, because both of them, they lie. So he's not a Democrat, not a Republican, because none of them speak the truth. So some of you that said that, oh, Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump just have the way, or his own way, of narrating to you that, listen, and he said this before. When they call him racist, they call him this. He said, I am doing nothing different. What I'm doing, it is what exactly they have been doing. This is the Constitution I'm going by. This is what the system I'm going by. But maybe you feel I'm just being brutal to educate you, to let you know to wake up. But you black folks like to sleep. You do not like people telling you the truth. You black folks, that's one thing I noticed about you. You speak about liberation, but you don't understand what liberation is. You speak about freedom, but you don't want to be free. Yes, black folks, African people speak about freedom, but when it comes to be free, they don't want to work for it. When it comes to taking the role or the motto or the process of being free, they don't want to take it. But they always want to come and talk about freedom, liberation. They always want to celebrate, how do you call it, May 25th. But they do not understand the concept in which they celebrate May 25th. They always want to celebrate Dr. King, but they do not understand how they're supposed to celebrate Dr. King or Nelson Malcolm X. We always want to celebrate Nkrumah, but we do not understand why should we celebrate Nkrumah. And going forward, what should we do? Oh, we always want to celebrate Thomas Sankara. Oh, we always want to celebrate Patrick Lumumba. But indeed, what kind of celebration are we doing? By coming here and talk about Thomas Sankara or Patrick Lumumba, but not doing what they were doing, not following what they were following, but we should come here. Oh, today we remember Malcolm X. Today we remember Dr. King. You know, today we want to remember Patrick Lumumba. You can take that BS on the other side. If that's the only way to remember these people, I don't want to be part. Count me off. Now, let's go to the African leaders. the US Congress failed to acknowledge that Russia invade Ukraine. African leaders, we want to get to the article because this is WCC. We are not going to speak of our hair or opinion. We bring it, we show it to you. Because we know who we are dealing with and we know who we are speaking, or we know how we come out here to speak, to bring awareness. All right? So no opinion. So just make sure we have the information to give you. Now it level you to go sit down again, stating like a slave, because we have many slaves among us. Many of the slaves, they still live among us. They will always be with us, these slaves. Now, the question here is, if America can recognize where she is heading to, why can African leaders recognize what is good for Africa and for African people? At this time, nations, continents are recognizing their fault and are seeing their downfall, and they are taking different approach. Because what I can tell you now is this: Europe, the European Union, are trying to have one army. Oh, you see, some of you African leaders and some of you so-called Africans who think you know more, you saw Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso trying to collaborate, trying to come together, and trying to have one currency, trying to have one flag, trying to have one army. And you the same people without slave mentality getting angry of why these nations are collaborating. But guess what? The same European nation, they have seen what unity among those three nations have brought to the people of that region. One, you remember, when the same Europe and the same US Congress decided to pass through ECOWAS to go invade those nations collaborated. What then happened? ECOWAS drew back because ECOWAS do not have the army to go fight these three nations at the same time, because they wanted to fight these nations individually. And then one of those nations, like Mali, will be like, okay, that's Burkina Faso. And then after they defeat Burkina Faso, then they go to Mali. After Mali, then they go to Niger. But these nations saw it swiftly and they said, no, we got to do something. They came together. They collaborated. So ECOWAS drew back. Now, because you African leaders, specifically these dumb-headed West African leaders, they don't get sense. Some of them, no sense in their brain. Now, ECOWAS have recognized it, that you know what? If we can't win Russia through Ukraine, because it's not Ukraine fighting Russia, let's be frank here, as we all know now. Because billions of dollars by the US, this is not propaganda. The USA admitted she has spent billions of dollars to fight Russia to the Ukraine, and they can't win. England has spent billions of dollars in the same way to fight Russia to the Ukraine. They can't win. NATO was fighting Russia through Ukraine. They can't win. These are things are there, and they themselves have said it, right? Now, they have recognized that they cannot win that war. But yet they stay. If they do not win that war, Africa, to be specific, we have a sense of direction. And it is that sense of direction they do not want. So what Europe is doing now, Europe now coming together, instead of having Amish, how they call it, Polish army, British army, this army, Romanian army, they are now coming together to collaborate to have one army. Because if they have one army, now, instead of German sending army, no. They all will now go to fight Russia because they have one army. That is the talk that is taking place right now. So you African leaders, as you are fighting among yourself about Western aid, about American aid, about USAID, that have taken you nowhere, have taken your economy nowhere, but create proxy war, create Boko Haram, create Al-Qaeda, create terrorists, and take down your governments, where the same government, US government, has exposed them, but yet they stay. You still want this aid. Yet they stay. You don't understand what policy making is. When these nations, these continents are making policy, Europe is making policy right now, US is making policy right now, but Africa does not understand what policy making is. Rather, what they understand is aid. Up to now, if you still blame Russia for the issue in Ukraine, then you are stupid. Or because you fail to understand the reality of what is going on. You just saw a video, right? Now, let's see an article. I have so many, but for the time of 6, I brought one because it's not really necessary. Okay? But I brought one so you can see it. And this is coming from the BBC. I have the CNN one, NBC, all the same. Just different sources, right? So you can see it instead of me bringing one source. But hey, now you can go and find out the rest of what's happening. Now, this is not in defense of Russia or any nation. This is about awareness to the African leaders and to the African journalists and to the African masses that no one is coming to free us. That only African can free Africa. That there is no democracy practice nowhere. That you must create your own system that works for you. What worked for the US, they call it democracy. That's what worked for them. And what worked for Africa, that in our interest, that we call it democracy, whether we call it democracy, whether we call it no-cracy, whether we call it crazy-cracy, whether we call it real-cracy, as long as it works for the betterment of Africa, the upliftment of Africa, right? We can call it any name. It don't have to be democracy. Because what worked for the US, it worked for them. That's why they call it democracy. But they do not practice reality. They do not practice democracy. Watch this. See something here. This is not coming from me. Watch this. Let's read this article. Now, this is BBC, right? Look at this article here. It says US side with Russia in UN United Nations resolution on Ukraine. February 25th, 2025. February 25th, 2025. US side with Russia in United Nations resolution on Ukraine. And it was not just the US. Guess what? Who all was there? Who side with Russia as well? Israel. Israel also side with Russia. Now, do you see the game that is being played here, like Jeffrey was talking about? Washington, D.C. is a liar. Don't believe them. What they tell you. You so-called African nations. You are a colony. The fact that you still have these borders, you are a colony. Do not trust Washington, D.C. officials when they call you or when they come to the African continent to come and lecture you. They have no moral right to lecture African leaders about leadership. They have no moral right. They have no moral right to lecture you about what government is, how government is supposed to run. They have no moral right. Why should you get your freedom to these people who don't understand what leadership is? I could play the video, but let's just read through. Now, it says the US has twice sided with Russia in vote at the United Nations to mark the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, highlighting the Trump administration change of stance on the war. Now, you might say, oh, it's Trump, but listen to this. Don't be dumb. Yes, if you think that way, then maybe it fits you. But don't be dumb to say, oh, this is Trump. You know, Trump is hey, Trump is this. Let me tell you something. The United States Congress is the United States Congress. Whether Democrat or whether Republican, they work for what is in their best interest. And by the way, let me tell you this. Let me see how I can paraphrase this. All right, let me say this. One thing I like about Trump, that the other leaders, the other American, whether past or future leader that will come, that they are different. Before you hate on Trump, let me explain something to you. Let me make this clear. Trump is no different from Biden, from Barack, from George Bush, or from other past presidents. Trump is not different when it comes to American policy, when it comes to American interests. No one should tell you Trump does not like America. No one should tell you Trump is trying to put America in a ditch. No one should tell you that and you believe it. Nobody. The same way they love the U.S., that's how Trump loved the U.S. Don't let no man lie to you that the decision Trump is making, Trump is trying to do this to the U.S., Trump is trying to plumb the U.S., no one should lie to you. Now, what you don't know is, let me tell you this. We said this before, but let me say it again and maybe detail it so that you can understand. But no one should lie to you, again, I repeat, no one should lie to you that Trump does not like America. Oh, Trump is trying to put America in the ditch. Nobody should lie to you. Biden does not love America more than Trump. No one should lie to you. Get that clear. The difference between them is Trump is a nationalist, and I'm going to explain this more detail again today. Trump is a nationalist, and the other past president, they are globalists, right? Now, that does not mean Biden is not a nationalist. That does not mean George Bush was not a nationalist. They were also nationalists because they were pushing American policy in the interest of America. They were also nationalists. They were also nationalists. So they were both nationalists and at the same time globalists. But with Trump, Trump is absolutely only one. He's not a globalist. And when you are not a globalist and you become an American president, people will not understand you. Because what's going to happen here is you'll be the nationalist with a nationalistic ideology. You will begin to expose the globalist. And that is what's happening right now. Because Trump is not a globalist. He's a pure nationalistic, and or he have that nationalistic ideas, right? When he's doing things, because he thinks he's working for America, he's doing things. For example, he's saying, right? For example, the aid, what some of you don't understand. Now, he's saying, you know what? Instead of you sending aid to this country, this, that. No, this country can fight for themselves. Why should we send it to them? This country have the resources. This country, they have government. Just how we have government, they have Congress. Just how we have Congress. Is that lie? They have three branches of government, some of them, most of them, just like we have three branches of government. They have their parliament, just like we have parliament. They have, how do you call it, voting process, just like we have voting process. They have constitution, just like we have constitution. They have their foreign policy, just like we have our foreign policy. So why should we take our money and give it to them? But Trump does not understand that these money that are being given to those nations, they are given to them in order to maintain the American foreign policy. Now we go to globalism. So this is how the other nationalists on the other side use that as a form of, we are unipolar nation, we are global nation, we have to do this. But that aid that is being given to those nations that Trump, maybe he know or maybe he may not know what those aid are for. Those aid are there to maintain or to influence the governmental process of that country, to influence those leaders in that country. And that is why those aid never manifest in the life of the people. Because those leaders are working for the interest of American foreign policy or US foreign policy. And that is why when those money go to those nations, whether it is used for the people or not, the American government do not question them. No, they only tell the American government question them or European government question them about that aid or about that money if that leader become to have some senses for the interest of the people and for the interest of the country. If that leader began to question the American foreign policy or European foreign policy, then that's the time America will come and say this leader is corrupt because this amount of money was given for this entity, but that leader did not use it for that entity. Only because you began to question them. And for that reasons, you always see African leaders will not question them. And for that reasons, you always see African leaders who do not understand what policy making is to benefit their people. So Trump came in and said, no, this money will not be given to these people. Now, in doing that, he began to dig a hole. And that's how he's exposing. So being a nationalist for the U.S. and not understanding the other side of what they call globalist, he's exposing the globalist institutions because it is an institution. He's exposing the globalist institution. And I can tell you this, we were almost, I want to believe, let me put it this way. Let me not be like, so, okay. I want to believe, all right? I want to believe. That's my opinion. So I will put it that way. But the truth will come up. I will put it this way. It is something that I know. But again, I won't be like I'm specific. I want to believe, my opinion, we were almost at the point of nuclear war. Almost at the point of nuclear war. If only the Democrat was going to come in, there was going to be nuclear war. And I believe, again, Trump being a nationalist, the same way he brought out about USAID corruption and sponsoring Boko Haram, which some of you so-called Negro leaders don't understand. This is how Trump's going to expose them again. I want to believe, in my opinion, the CIA have already made plans about nuclear war. I want to believe, in my opinion, I don't know, in my opinion, I want to believe, I will put it that way, okay? Donald Trump will expose them in a few years to come about that particular communication that was made. I want to believe, in my opinion, it's going to come up. Donald Trump will expose them because he's not a globalist. He don't understand that. He's a nationalist. And he think that, you can't give our aid. What we're doing for the other war, they should do this. We shouldn't do this. Which, of course, I love it. I'm not against it. And it is the truth. Why should African leaders, a whole continent, the most richest niche or continent in the world, why should we be on aid? Why should we be begging for aid? Our same resources, these people come and loot with the influence of our corrupt African leaders. take our mineral resources, come and process it, make billions of dollars, and then take some of these billions of dollars, maybe take 1 million, 2 million, and can give it to us as aid. And we say these people love us. Is that love? How do you show love? It is our money. It is our resources. They just took and make huge profit. And then come and give a little of nothing as aid. And you are happy. Dumb and stupid. So I'm happy what Donald Trump is doing. If Donald Trump loves his country, why can't you love your country? If Donald Trump loves his continent, so be it. Why can't you love your continent? If Donald Trump loves his nation, why can't you love your nation? If Donald Trump is taking on policy or decision to keep American dollars, to keep American money, why can't you make policy or decision to keep your resources? If Donald Trump is saying he wants to look after Americans' interests, why can't you do the same thing to look after American interests? If Donald Trump is saying my money will now go to Liberia, to Ghana, to Niger, whatsoever, why can't you hold your resources from coming to the US? From going to Europe? From going to Asia? From China? Why can't you hold your resources? As simple as that. What is wrong with loving your people? What is wrong with loving your nation? What is wrong with making policy for the interest of your nation? What is wrong with that? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm not against Donald Trump. That is why they voted him. That is why he's a leader. And as a leader, he must work in the interest of the people. What is wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that. Face your country. Face your continent. Yes, you are a leader. Nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with what Donald Trump is doing. Stopping aid. I see nothing wrong with that. Keep your resources. Create policy that your resources will benefit your people. You do not call this investment. People coming from Europe and America or whatsoever, taking your resources, and you call it investors. Do you understand what investor is? Then you have only a few Africans working to the mine and not even to the real area, not even to where the resources are. You have few African working and you call that investor. That's not investment. Investment is where you have factory in your nation. And our resources is being manufactured in your country. From raw material to finished product. And then if you want to export the finished product, you can export the finished product. People can come and buy it. That is investment. Investment is not people come and loot your resources, your mineral material, and carry it to the port, put it on ship. Your Goya Gamo, carry it to the airport, put it on plane, and fly it. You call that investment? Are you mad? Are you mad? But let's continue to read here. First, let's continue. First, the U.S. opposed a European draft. The United States. The United States opposed a European draft resolution condemning Moscow. So Europe drafted their resolution to condemn Moscow, Russia, but United States opposed that resolution to condemn Moscow. To condemn Moscow action and supported Ukraine territory integrity, voting the same way. The United States voted the same way as Russia. A country including. So now, listen to some of you African leaders. Today, you still have issue with Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. You, Halassa. But here is the United States. Voting the same way Russia voted, the same way North Korea voted, the same way Belarus voted at the UN General Assembly that just passed this February 25th, 2025. voting the same way as Russia and countries including North Korea and Belarus at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Let's continue here. There is an area I want to get. Let's continue. Then the U.S. drafted and voted for a resolution at the United Nations Security Council which called for an end, listen to that, for an end to the conflict, but contain no criticism of Russia. Did you see that? Contain no criticism of Russia. You so-called African leaders that still criticize Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. You equal leader that still criticize Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, that fail to understand or always want to turn their blind eye and ears to what Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are asking for, are crying for, are fighting for. Days go to you. Days go to you. The United States vote just as Russia and even fail to criticize Russia. The Security Council passed the resolution, but two key U.S. allies, UK and France, extend after their attempt to make the wording were voted. Now, UK did not vote. France did not vote. This time around, the U.S. left UK. The U.S. left France. Oh, I thought it was the same United States Congress along with UK was spending billions of dollars in Ukraine. Oh, African leaders, do you see this? ECWA, do you see this? Are you still on the side of U.S. and EU against your brother states, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso? Are you still against those people? ECWA, are you now going to sit and examine yourself where your fault came from, where you fall short, and where you need to reshuffle ECWA? Or you still going to be there blaming and lambasting around here, talking about Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso? While currently as we speak, those three nations, they are among the 9 fastest developing countries in the world. 9. Maybe the next 2-3 years to come, they might be among the 3 or the 2nd most developing countries in the world. Why are you still sitting down there thinking that you are a leader for your colonial master? Why your colonial master are trying to do the best things for their interests, for the interests of their country? Let's continue here. Let's read down here. Let's go down here. We run out of time. But let's see here. Now, the United Nations General Assembly member backed the European resolution by 93 votes. But extraordinarily, the U.S. extraordinarily, that means there's an emphasis on here that, wow, why this time around the U.S. is doing the blah, 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 because the U.S. have recognized that if she continues the past, she's going to go down the drain, she's going to fail. So the U.S. have recognized that, no, we need to work in the interest of U.S., not Europe. Europe should fight her battle. You heard what Jeffrey said in his video you watch. So African leaders, why these nations have recognized their wrong, their mistake, but don't want to come and tell you, you'll be there fighting among themselves while they are beating themselves. But let's continue. But extraordinarily, the U.S. did not abstain, but actually voted against it. Alone voted against the draft, okay, or the piece whatsoever, or let's say there was a draft by the European Union to condemn Russia. So they are trying to tell you here, the United States voted against it in condemning Russia. Okay, voted against it along with Russia. Okay, let's read this again. Extraordinarily, the U.S. did not abstain, but actually voted against it. along with Russia. So here is the US on the side of Russia. So some of you African leaders, okay, that fail to do the right thing, here is the US now. Because you like to listen to US. US will come and tell you who your enemies are. US will come and tell you who you need to be ally with. US will come and tell you that's your enemy. Because you do not know your enemy. Somebody else will come and tell you this is your enemy. Now, the same people, the United States say these are your enemy. This is the same country now the United States have recognized for failure. Now on her side, in the west part, look at Israel. Listen to this. Listen to this. You so-called African leaders, knuckleheads, some of you. Extraordinarily, the US did not abstain, but actually voted against it, along with Russia. Now the US is on the same table with Russia. African leaders, where are you? Are you on the same table with Russia now? Because the US is there. Or the US is coming to tell you, no, don't be friends with Russia. While the US is on table, one year dining with Russia. Okay. Let's continue here. Along with Russia, okay, Israel. Here is Israel again. Here is Israel now on the same side, okay, with Russia. Not to condemn Russia. Do you see the game here? Jeffrey told you everything you see is a game, is a scam. Oh, should I play the video again? No, I don't think we have time. But I will post the video in the link. Jeffrey told you everything the US does is a scam. It's a game. So the US now on the side along with Russia, Israel, North Korea, Sudan, Belarus, Hungary, and 11 other states with 65 extension. So that means doing this resolution drafted by the European Union to condemn Russia, right? The United States, North Korea, Israel, Sudan, Belarus, Hungary, and other 11 states voted in favor of Russia, not to condemn Russia. Did you see that? Let's continue here. The United Nations General Assembly also passed the US resolution, but only after it was amended to include language supporting Ukraine, which led to the US abstaining. So you see that the US is no longer on the side of Zelensky. Now listen to this. Republican Senator John Curtis said he was deeply troubled by the vote which put us, that means the US, on the same side as Russia and North Korea. Now, African leaders or ECWA or AU, are you still against the Sahel nation? Have you examined what exactly the Sahel nation want and what they are fighting for? Or because you just want so-called democracy that the US say you will have when the US does not believe in democracy? Oh, okay, maybe you think I'm lying. The US does not believe in democracy. Listen, see this right here. Look at this and tell me what the US democracy is based on. Let's read this. Now, this Republican Senator, John Curtis, he continued to say, these are not friends. These are not our friends. Africans, who are your friends? African leaders, who are your friends? And if you are making friends, what type of friendship are you making? I mean, nations now, I'm not talking about. If you are making friends, what type of friends are you making? Because a US Senator, John Curtis, he said, these are not our friends. North Korea, Russia, Belarus, Sudan, and 11 other countries that he did not name here. A Republican or a US Senator, John Curtis, is saying, these are not our friends. And he's continuing to say, this posture is a dramatic shift from American idea. This is where I want to go when you're talking about democracy. When you're talking about, oh, America is a center of democracy, listen to this. What is that democracy is about? Listen to what he said. This posture is a dramatic shift from Americans' ideas of freedom and democracy. So the question then becomes, what is the idea of American freedom and democracy? That idea of American freedom and democracy is against other nation freedom. It's against other nation liberation. You may think I'm stupid and dumb. It was this American idea that is CIA killed Thomas Sankara. It was this American idea that is CIA killed Patrick Lumumba. It was this American idea that the CIA also partook in the demise of Amilcar Cabral. The list can go on. It was the same American idea that killed Muammar Gaddafi. It was the same American idea that removed Kwame Nkrumah from power. And it is the same American idea again that tried to sabotage Abraham Traoré. So, American definition of freedom should not be African freedom. American definition of democracy should not be African definition of democracy. Absolutely different. This posture is a dramatic shift from American ideas. Now, is it bad for America to have her ideas of what freedom look like and what democracy look like? Absolutely not. Yes, she had the right. What a God-given right. What a universal right, whatsoever you may call it. Absolutely. America have the right to have an idea of what freedom look like, what democracy look like, for the interest of our citizens, for the interest of our nation, for the interest of our country, for the interest of what her continent. Yes, Africa, what is your idea of freedom and democracy look like? Because America is trying to tell you so-called Africans, your definition of freedom and democracy, that is not what they are looking at. And that is not what they will ever look at. That is why they kept Nkrumah. Or they removed Nkrumah. They kept Patrick Lumumba. They kept Thomas Sankara. They kept Amilcar Cabral. That is why they put section of Robert Mugabe. That is why they killed Muammar Gaddafi. We take this out. All right. We take that out now. So, African leaders, you understand the game that is going on here. So, if the US can sit on the same table as Russia, if the US can sit on the same table as North Korea, where are you? Where is your stand? Are you still waiting for the US to come and tell you who to partner with, who your enemies are? Don't you know your enemies? Are you still waiting for the US to come and tell you what policy you should make to run your country or your continent? Are you still waiting for USAID when USAID have been exposed that they are the one funding terrorists? They are the one sponsoring the removal of your governments? They are the one sponsoring Boko Haram? They are the one sponsoring Al Qaeda, ISIS, that is fighting Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, that is around Africa. The issue here is, if these people are the one doing it, so be it the United Nations as well. Might be, might. I will say this until we can wait for Donald Trump to come and tell again, because we believe in when the horses speak, then we believe it, right? All right. Are you waiting for Donald Trump to come and tell you the United Nations might be supporting terrorists? Look at DRC Congo. Do you know how long the United Nations have been there? But the United Nations cannot defeat the terrorists, the rebels. The terrorists, the rebels have these weapons. If USAID can be a sponsor of terrorist activities, and the United States Congress have a budget for USAID, that means the United States Congress is aware or have been aware of what USAID have been doing around the world, because they have been checkmating USAID before they gave funding to them or aid to them to go and give it to whosoever they want to give it to. So the United Nations is no different from USAID. They are the same Western organizations. You think they want peace for the African region? So Donald Trump, bravo, you are doing the right thing. Like I said the last time, the next thing I would like for you to do, Donald Trump, no African leader should come overseas for medical treatment. No African leaders should come overseas for medical treatment. Let them stay in Africa. The same way their citizens are dying for lack of medical facility, let them die. They don't have to come to Europe and America for medical treatment. When they serve a continent, when they serve their people, let them stay there and go to the same hospital the other citizens can go, because the hospital Donald Trump go to here is the same hospital ordinary citizens go to. The hospital Joe Biden go to is the same hospital ordinary citizens go to. The same hospital Barack Obama go to is the same hospital ordinary citizens go to. Here's for Donald Trump, please do this for us. No African leader should come to the U.S. or overseas for medical treatment. There are hospitals in Africa that can treat African leaders and they live. If these African leaders believe that the hospitals in Africa are so sophisticated for the same people they serve, they should go to that same hospital too for treatment. And these African leaders believe that the hospital in Africa are safe for pregnant women to go and give birth or deliver there. Their women should go to the same hospital. They shouldn't come to Europe and America for safe delivery or for delivery issue or purpose or safety. They should not come. Let you stay there. Their wives should stay there. Their children should stay there too for medical treatment. Donald Trump, please do that. We love you. You are telling the world how leaders are supposed to behave for their continent, for their nation, for their people. Nothing wrong with that. For standing up for America, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with you standing for your people. Nothing wrong with you keeping your taxpayer money for your people. Nothing wrong with that. Keeping your aid. Nothing wrong with that. After all, what have those aid done for Africa? They continue to put Africa in more chaos, poverty. It continues to infiltrate our system. So Donald Trump, you are on the right path. Keep your aid. Keep your money for America, for American people. Keep your money for your institution, your hospital, your education. Your sectors. Keep it. Don't send it to these Negro African leaders. Slave African leaders. Let's look at the next thing here. Let's look at the next thing here about the same aid about Liberia. Now, the finance minister of Liberia posted this post. I will bring his post. All right, I will bring out his post from his Facebook page. You know, some of these people, they will tweet on Facebook and they think even if they go by and delete it, we will not find it. You can delete your post, we're still going to find it. We will use technology to our advantage. Because if you think you deleted it, it did not get deleted. It's there, it left there. We saw it. We know how to find it. Now, finance minister called on religious leaders to pray for Liberia in USAID frozen aid. That's the finance minister of Liberia right here, the current finance minister under the current government. So he's the one said religious leaders should go and pray it. He did not say religious leaders should pray it so that the nation can create policy going forth. But he said they should pray so that Donald Trump can take American taxpayer money, go and give it to them. No, Mr. Matt, American taxpayer money will not come to you. That's corruption in itself. Why should American taxpayer money be taken, given to your government? That's corruption. Donald Trump is not corrupt. He don't want to be corrupt. He don't want to be called corrupt. So he's not going to take his American people money, his American dollar, and come and give it to a nation that have government, to a nation that have abundant resources, to a nation that have 3 branches of government, to a nation that have constitution, to a nation that claim to be independent nation. Why would Donald Trump want to do that? A nation that have gold, a nation that have diamond, a nation that have uranium, a nation that have oil, a nation that have iron ore, a nation that have rubber. You can maintain yourself. America does not have gold. America does not have uranium. America does not have oil. America does not have rubber, timber, nothing. And you still want them to take that money to come and give it to you? Donald Trump, I salute you. Mr. Trump, I salute you. Because if you ask me, this money that you've been giving over the years, go and see Liberia. Go and see the same sectors to which you've been sending that $51 million to. Go and see Liberia. Go and see those sectors. Donald Trump, please, I beg you, visit Liberia and see. These corrupt African leaders, these corrupt Liberian leaders. He said something, this is what he said, something serious is happening. And the finance minister, Augustine Kafuan, is calling on all religious leaders and worshippers across Liberia to step in, not with policy, but with prayer. Now, what I just read came from this writer, not him, but we're going to get to his post. I got his post from his Facebook page. Because when he said that, he tweeted that, later on, when the media came after him, the Liberian media came after him, he went and deleted it, I believe, and then went and said, oh, he did not say that. And some of the so-called Negro supporter of the government, right, in the end, the wrong thing have been done, but because they feel that the political party in power, it is a party. So even if the wrong thing have been done, you shouldn't speak about it. But we have the posts. Because when I posted this on one of the Liberian platform, one of the so-called Negro Pete came and commented. The finance minister did not say this. Nothing like that happened. And I commented there. I said, okay, if nothing like this happened, this is WCC. Be here, and I will bring the evidence or the proof to show that he said it. So this is what he said. Today, while speaking at the Liberian Senate, Gov't, the finance minister, revealed that USAID has put a frozen on development projects in Liberia. What are those developments? We can see it. But let's continue. Totaling a staggering 51 million. That is not just numbers on the paper. It means real projects, real job. What are the jobs this USAID have provided? Anyway, let's continue. Real job, real opportunity for community area at the risk of disappearing. So these areas are going to disappear because Donald Trump have decided this $51 million, it can be used in the American economy. It can be used for our hospital. It can be used for cancer research because there are a lot of cancer patients. It can be used for all people to have better care. It can be used to give to workers who are taking care of all people to have more wages, to have more benefit, more salary. What is wrong with that? Donald Trump, yes, sir. We salute you. But our Liberian leaders are saying if this $51 million is not given to them, this opportunity will disappear. How will they disappear? Liberia have iron ore. Recently, I was in a country. I went Nima County. I saw that long train carrying the iron ore. I shed tears. When the Chinese are in Liberia, the Chinese are the ones selling sand to Africans, to Liberians. You go back, say, the Chinese will be the one you will pay the money to. The Chinese will be the one to dig the sand, put it in a truck, and then you move with it. Can a Liberian go in China and dig sand and sell it to Chinese? I mean, a lot of disadvantage. And we say we got leaders in the country. Bullshit leaders. Let's continue here. To put it bluntly, Liberia has already lost over 50 million in aid from Washington, D.C. And if things don't turn around, we could lose even more. My brother, Mr. Finance Minister, how long are you going to keep depending on aid? How long are you going to keep depending on people labor? Because these are people labor. Now they are saying, no, we need more money to survive. Liberia is one of the richest continents in the Africa there. But because we have corrupt leaders, let me take this out. Let me put his screenshot there from Facebook. Who is this? That's the same man there. That's the finance minister there. This is his comment. Okay? This is from Facebook. I took it from Facebook. That's his comment there. He said, USAID frozen development project across Liberia are estimated at US 51 million. This means that Liberia has lost over 50 million in aid cut from Washington, D.C. Therefore, we call, he's speaking, the finance minister, we called on religious leaders at various worship areas to pray that all USAID projects do not cancel. Finance Minister Augustine Gov't. That is what he said. So these are folks in government, we call them leaders. They lack the ability, the capability to think, to create policy for the country. A nation that have iron ore, rubber, diamond, timber, gold, oil, uranium. Now 6 are named, and others are still there. Land. When it comes to land mass, Liberia is one of the soil or the land in Africa that is so rich. Anything you plant, it will vibrate. I mean, grow. For lack of a better word, anything you put, it will grow. But they fail to put their people to work. But these leaders, we call leaders, they will take agriculture break every year, come to the US. But if you look, there's no agriculture farm, there's no plantation. But take agriculture break. Thousands of dollars come to the US and lavish it on girls, on women, and go back home. Place they call home. But they got nothing there. That was the finance minister asking the Liberian people to pray, asking religious leader to pray. Do you think it is everything that fit in the formula of prayer? This is what, I saw a post somewhere, and this lady said, what will I say to my grandchildren? Israel is being protected by modern technology, modern ideology, modern army, modern weapons. Israel is being protected by modern technology, modern army, modern arm and ammunition. But then, what would I say to my children? What is Africa being protected by? The God of Israel. The God of Israel, Africa is being protected by the God of Israel. But Israel is being protected not by the God of Israel, but by modern technology, modern ideology, modern army ammunition. I saw that post. It touched me. What will I say to my grandchildren who believe in the God of Israel, that Africa is being protected by the God of Israel, but the God of Israel does not protect Israel, but Israel is being protected by modern technology, modern policy, modern ideology, modern army ammunition. Here is a government official asking African religious leaders, Liberian religious leaders to pray so that America will take their taxpayer money and send it to them. So that Donald Trump will change his mind. God will change Donald Trump's mind. Why can you pray? Tell your religious leader to pray so that you can stop being corrupt, so that you can stop being a slave, so that you can stop being a neo-colonialist, so that you can have the idea and the mindset, so that our spirit can live from in you, so that you can be able to create policy for freedom and liberation. Why can you ask a religious leader to pray for you? Because you are dumb and stupid. Why can you ask a religious leader to pray for you? Because you have muck in your brain and you call yourself educated one. Why can you ask a religious leader to pray for you so that you can stop thinking like a slave? Why can you ask a religious leader to pray for you so that you can start thinking like a leader and not a beggar? You beggar. African leaders are beggar. Liberian leaders are beggar. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with begging, but don't ask religious leader to pray for you so that you can go beg. And that's the only way you can go beg. So if this 51 million don't come, Liberia going to be a failed state? Because that's what you said. If this aid does not come, more sectors will disappear. That means the health sector going to disappear. The health sector already poor. Educational sector already poor. It's going to disappear. That means Liberia is no more. Because just as you are praying, your religious leader, that's how we are praying too. So that this aid will not come. So that you can stand on your own. So that you can be a leader. So that at least you will learn from other African nations. Look at Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. They have denied the World Bank. They said they don't want aid. But currently, as we speak, they are among the 8 or the 9 developing nations in the world. 2, 3 years, 4 years from now, adding up, they might be among the 10 or the 2nd developing nation in the world. This is the time that you need to go back to your table and see what other nations are doing that refuse aid. But what are they doing then? This is the time that you need to go sit down to the table and rethink. Since America says she don't want to give her aid, what can we do now? Oh, we got iron ore. So what should we do to improve our iron ore for the betterment of our people? Oh, we got diamond. Oh, we got rubber. Oh, we got oil. Oh, we got uranium. We got gold. This is where now you're supposed to be thinking in that direction. Because right now, Donald Trump is saying, time is tough. Time is rough. So instead of printing more money, we can take all these aid. It will be billions of dollars, and we can put it into our economy. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being nationalistic. Nothing wrong with being realistic or realist. Sorry, nothing wrong with being a realist. Nothing wrong with loving your country. Nothing wrong, Liberia. Nothing wrong with taking your iron ore and stop selling it to Europe and America. Nothing wrong with sending your iron ore to England. I mean, something wrong with it. Let me put it that way. Something wrong with taking your iron ore to England. And nothing wrong with taking your iron ore and processing it in your country. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. So if the Liberian government come and say, our iron ore will no longer go to Europe and America, will no longer go to England. If the American government, Liberian government say, our diamond will no longer go. Our iron ore, our rubber, our timber, our gold, diamond will no longer go. Should we come and say the Liberian government is wrong? Why should the Liberian government do this? Should we come and say religious leaders should pray for the Liberian for come on now? Should we do that? We will be happy. We will be joyful. If there's any word to describe about happiness, we will describe it. We will. And we will say thank you. Let's say what we're telling Donald Trump thank you. We will come here and say the same thing. Thank you. And that's what Donald Trump wants you to do. Donald Trump wants you to stand up for yourself and stop being a beggar. Because it will take you nowhere. Let's see a video here from President John Mahama. Anyway, shout out to Ghana, Mama Ghana. She just had her independence, March 6th, last week. And this was a speech from the current president, John Mahama. And we hope he continues. He shouldn't be like Nana Akufo-Addo. And we hope ECOWAS should not convince him to go to Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso to bring them over. First of all, those leaders will not do it. And we're going to have different sections on this and send them a message They should not try to come back to ECOWAS. We love their leadership and we love how it's going. We love how they are catering to the people. ECOWAS leader, they do not cater to their people. They are puppet. They are slave. They do not understand why they are in position of power for. And we will speak to Abraham Tuwari, Tiani, and Semi Gaita. Let them be on their light. They should not forget, they should not sleep. Once a devil is always a devil.
The United States Archives revealed that this was a coup inspired and engineered by the CIA. This remains the most regrettable and darkest moment in our nation's history.
This will not sit well with many of you, but it is the truth. On March 6, 2025, during the 68th anniversary of Ghana's independence, President John Dramani Mahama delivered a speech in Accra that unveiled a significant chapter of the nation's history. He revealed that declassified US documents have confirmed the Central Intelligence Agency's CIA involvement in the 1966 coup that ousted Ghana's first president, Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, a leading figure in Africa's fight against colonialism, envisioned Ghana as a beacon of industrialization and self-reliance. His ambitious plans aimed to transform the nation into a modern industrial hub, setting a precedent for other African countries. However, on February 24, 1966, his government was overthrown in a coup d'etat led by military and police forces. The coup leaders accused Nkrumah's administration of corruption and authoritarianism, but underlying geopolitical dynamics played a crucial role. President Mahama's disclosure sheds light on the external influences that shaped this pivotal event. The declassified documents indicate that the CIA was not only aware of the coup plans, but also played a supportive role in its execution. The 1966 coup had profound implications for Ghana. It disrupted Nkrumah's industrialization agenda, leading to decades of political instability and hindering economic progress. The nation's trajectory shifted from a path of self-determined development to one influenced by external powers, affecting the collective psyche and aspirations of Ghanaians. Now listen to the speech, and please share your thoughts with us in the comments section. This is Uplifting Africa.
Ghana's independence is the single most important event in our history, as it sets out us on the path of nationhood. It is even more significant because it lit the flame of independence in sub-Saharan Africa by inspiring other countries yoked to colonial exploitation to seek independence and self-determination. This day must therefore always be commemorated, but when reality calls for a different approach, we must heed it and act accordingly. Moreover, hosting the celebration here at the presidency preserves the symbolic essence of Independence Day while demystifying the seats of government. Fellow compatriots, Independence Day celebrations serve as an opportunity for us to remember our nation's struggle for freedom and to honor the sacrifices of our forebears who led that struggle for self-rule. It reinforces our national identity, our unity and patriotism, while offering a moment for reflection on our progress and the challenges ahead. It presents an opportunity for us to recount our history, picking the lessons it teaches, and thereby forging a new path for progress and development. Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of our nation, envisioned an industrialized, self-reliant Ghana, whose citizens have the highest standard of economic life and the greatest sense of self-esteem rooted in patriotism and Pan-African unity. But on February 24, 1966, a joint military and police coup d'etat shattered that dream, plunging Ghana into decades of instability and military takeovers. The verdict of history is now loud and clear. Declassified documents from the United States Archives reveal that this was a coup inspired and engineered by the CIA. This remains the most regrettable and darkest moment in our nation's history. That moment sparked a series of historical events that have set us back and significantly delayed our attainment of the objectives of nationhood. My brothers and sisters, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah understood the essence of unity, not only in Ghana, but on the entire African continent, when he said, and I quote, "The forces that unite us are inherently and far greater than the divisions imposed upon us." In the spirit of unity and brotherhood that this independence represents, I wish to speak directly to you, my brothers and sisters, in Boko and everywhere in our land where conflict is raging. I do not speak as president, but as your son and brother, in whose hands you have entrusted a solemn duty. The people of Boko and other areas, it is time for lasting peace to prevail. Our children deserve.
Anyway, we gotta go, but you listen to it, right? That's the current president of Mother Ghana, of Mama Ghana, saying there's a classified document. I believe he have access to it. That's why he said classified document that have been released. The involvement of the United States Congress, CIA, in the demise of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Now I ask you Africans, just looking at history during that time period, what Nkrumah was fighting for? Was it democracy? Was it freedom? So that means if the US could have plotted to remove Dr. Kwame Nkrumah or to assassinate him, because he have over 5 assassination attempts, just how we have Abraham Tuwari over 20. This was a man who believed in freedom and democracy as the USA. But they fought to remove him. Classified document have been revealed of the involvement of the USAID, CIA in the demise of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We just read when the US said from a senator, Mr. Curtis, when he said the ideology of the US democracy and freedom. That means their ideology is different from your freedom, from your democracy. What you call freedom, they don't call it freedom. What you call democracy, they don't call it democracy. That means freedom for the African continent is a demise for the US. That's what they're trying to say. Democracy for the African continent is a demise for the US. That's what they're trying to say. Was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah not fighting for freedom? Was he not fighting for democracy in Africa? But they remove him. Why should you allow such nation to come and tell you what democracy should look like, what leadership should look like? What are you doing with your history? Because no Africans will profoundly learn his or her history and then still come to the US asking them what leadership should look like so that they can go practice it. Asking them what democracy should look like so that they can go practice it. The reality here is Africa, we can never ever practice American form of democracy, American form of leadership, or American form of leadership and American form of freedom. Because if you take that form of freedom, democracy, leadership in the US, you will be oppressing your people. Because the form of democracy and freedom and leadership in the US is oppression. So if you take that model, you will be oppressing your people. That is why you are oppressing your people on the African continent. That is why the African continent cannot go anywhere. They can't develop. They have no means of processing their resources. That is why the African leaders step on education in Africa, because they do not want to educate their own people, for their own people to compete with their children. That is why in Africa, the political leader in power will always go against the opposition in power. Because they do not understand, they do not want to go with their own form of freedom, with their own form of democracy, with their own form of leadership. They want to depend on the US. And the US form of democracy is oppression. Leadership is oppression. Freedom is oppression. Because freedom on the African continent, it means they will not have time to explore the resources. Liberation on the African continent means they will not have time to explore the resources. Now, this is not only the US. This goes to all the colonial nations, the nation that oppressed and enslaved and colonized Africans, the continents, including them. All go to them. Not only the US. All of them. All the nations that took part in the demise of the African continent and the African masses. Humanly. None of them want to see. Read the 1883 Berlin Conference and see what they have in there. Africa and her children, they will make sure Africa and her children will never rise. The descendants will never rise. Now, when they were in our Berlin Conference 1884 in Germany, the people that made that decision, are they living today? 1884, the people that made that decision to say, this enslavement we have taken and we have carried on to enslave Africans. And then we sit here today, 1884, in this conference to devour Africa among ourselves. We're going to make sure, henceforth, from today going on war in future time, Africa and her descendants will never rise. The people that made that decision, are they living today? No. But they made a decision for the benefit of their descendants, and they left it there. And their descendants came, they are learning from it. They learn the history of what their forefathers said, and they are doing the same thing. So that is why they are so sophisticated to date in their decision making when it comes to Africa. That is why they come up with this NGO. Oh, the 1884 Berlin Conference. Have you read Leopold's letter to the missionary? In fact, before 1884, it was written 1883. It was written 1883. Leopold's letter to the missionary. So they used that letter in the 1884 Berlin Conference. And every one of them that colonized Africa, they used that letter. Go and read that letter in there. Leopold's letter to the missionary. Go and read it and see the work of the European missionary on the African continent. Maybe at that time, they were not giving money because they were paying directly the missionary that was coming. But now, they are being sophisticated, so the missionary are not coming directly, but they will come and use their own people and pay them the USAID that they're doing. That's the work of the missionary. The United Nations, anywhere they go, conflict can't finish. That's the work of the missionary. That's the work when they say, we will make sure Africa and her descendants will never rise. The people that make that decision, are they living today? No, they are not living. They are not alive. They are dead, gone long time to their heaven. And they're waiting for their children to go and meet in heaven. But while their children are here, their children will do what their forefathers said. So yes, the descendants of those that were in our conference, they are descendants, read that history and they go by it. Why we Africans, we fail to read what Malcolm X said. We fail to read and go by what Dr. Kwame Nkrumah says. We fail to read and go by what Amilcar Cabral wrote, what Patrick Lumumba wrote, what Thomas Sankara wrote. Do you think the descendant of those that were in the 1884 Berlin Conference, if the table were the other way around, do you think The way we are doing things, they would do things with us today like that. Do you think they would have still come to we African and ask us how leadership is supposed to be, how they're supposed to run America, how they're supposed to run Europe? Do you think they will go to the African continent to ask us how Europe or America is supposed to be run or governed? Do you think they will ask us about leadership, about human rights, about what violates human rights, or what does not violate human rights? Or ask about democracy? When they know the kind of perpetual systematic oppression we have been given to them up to today's date, you think they will come to us? For a typical example, look at in South Africa, when the people are asking for land, how they call it, distribution, or as our power phrase it, distribution of land without compensation. What, first of all, who was the first people? It was Australia. Australia stepped in and they said South Africa is oppressing the white people in South Africa. What did they do? They said West of Africa should go. They said they will fight for West of Africa. This time around again, what happened? Donald Trump went for West of Africa. Why in South Africa there is a place called Arena? Today, it still have white only, no black. Black can go there. Today, you still got it. That still remind us about apartheid, not only apartheid, slavery, not only slavery, colonization. It still remind us. And they have it there. And they have a apartheid statue today. You think if the table were the other way around, we did that. Black folk did that to white folks. You think today say Arena could have been there that say black only, no white, you think it will be there today? I beg you, man. This is not hate, but it's the truth. The truth will always sound hateful. Let's listen to the we call it for a day. I can't leave this out.
A rapper or an athlete, because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people. See, brothers and sisters, we invented the gas mask, and we wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the gas mask. We wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the stoplight. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the self-lubricating engine. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the refrigerated truck, the golf tee, the radio transmitter. We weren't sitting next to white children when we came up with the technology for the cell phone or the internet. All of these things we did on our own in those old, dilapidated black schoolhouses right here in Jacksonville, Florida. See, what y'all don't know is the reason the Supreme Court desegregated the schools was not to give black children a better education. The Supreme Court desegregated the schools on May 17th, 1954, because the white power structure was afraid that if we don't take over the education of black children, they may one day surpass our own children. You know what gave birth to these black Wall Streets? Those dilapidated black schoolhouses. And America was scared that if you don't bring the Negro under our direct academic supervision, he will surpass our white children. They didn't integrate the schools to help us out. They integrated the schools to dumb us down. You don't believe me? Guess what? Intelligence tests done on children from birth to age 5 reveal that African babies outperform the children, the infants of any other race, including the Asians. Our children outperform all other groups. They even tell you in developmental psychology that black children grow quicker than all the other children put together. Well, if the brain is responsible for intelligence, and if the brain is responsible for physical development, If the black child physically grows quicker than the other children, doesn't it also reason that the black child might be intellectually quicker than the other children also? That's why they came up with these IQ tests. I need you to understand something, Jacksonville, Florida. Testing came to America. Wonder why every black boy in America wants to be around.
All right, folks, I end with this video. This is today's presentation. These are some of the reasons they do not support education on the African continent. Mostly what is support on the African continent is prayer. So it is very shameful to see the finance minister of Liberia, Augustine Kafun, to say religious leader should pray for aid to come to Africa, or else those sectors will disappear. Those sectors will be no more. Liberia will be no more. We should pray. We should pray for aid to come. What a shame. What a shame. What are we going to tell our great-grandchildren or our children or our grandchildren? The God of Israel does not protect Israel. What protects Israel is technology. What drives or moves Israel forward is technology. It's modern equipment of weapons, arms, and ammunition. What drives Israel to progress is factory to provide job opportunity for their people. It's not prayer that drives Israel. It's not a God of Israel that protects Israel, because even that place there is not a real Israel. But because again we do not know our story, our history, we think that place is Israel. And the people are there, they are not the true Israelis. Because again, the same pastor, the same religious leader read the Bible. The people are there, they are not the biblical Israelites. But because you read the Bible, you don't understand, because the Bible told us or tell us or says the Israelites shall have no might. But here is Israel. Temporary Israel, not a biblical Israel. In Israel there, as you call it, they have military might. But when the Bible says the biblical Israel shall have no might, that means you can't defend yourself. You can't fight for yourself. When the Bible said the biblical Israel will be scattered around the world, they will live in slum community. They will live in ghettos. Who live in the ghettos around the world? In slum. Even in Africa, who live in a ghetto? Who live in a slum? Who are mourning because the Bible said Judah mourned. Who are the people mourning? You better learn your Bible the right way. Learn your Bible rightfully. Because you are praying to the wrong people. You are praying to the wrong God. You are looking up to the wrong people. Not knowing you yourself, you are the people the Bible describes. If you read the book of Deuteronomy, all the curses fetch you. Because I said the Israelites shall go into captivity. Who went into captivity? They shall have a yoke of iron on their neck. Research in history. Who have ever received or have been or have gotten the yoke of iron on their neck? Research it and see what will come out. And what the same Bible says again, it says the Israelites shall be disengaged from their own land, their resources. They will have no power over their resources. Who in the world that does not have power on over their resources? Read your own Bible. When you're talking about praying, I try, nonsense. Read your own Bible and see. Because as far as we know, America have control over our resources if she has some. Australia, if they have some. England, if they have some. It's the African continent. Look at the world, not even the continent, but all black nations, they do not have control over their resources. Look at Haiti, Colombia. I mean, you see it going down to the African continent. No African nation have control over their resources, and the Bible talk about it. You shall have no control over your land, your resources. Your resources will be cultivated, will be taken by the strangers. Read your Bible. But they will never teach that. The Christian churches will never teach this in the church because they are being indoctrinated. That's why. If anybody tell me I'm a pastor, I went to theological school, I got my degree. Anything you do to get a diploma is a career. You're going to do it as a career to earn money. I'm not going to sit down on you to preach to me to listen to it. I might come for fun. But I'm not coming there to come and sit down and say I come and worship. Because you got certificate in it. How you gonna school for 4 years, 5 years to get certificate, to get diploma, and not earn money, not earn income to take care of your family? I bet you. You pay student loan for it. If you now have scholarship, you gotta pay that student loan back. How you gonna pay the student loan? You gotta do exactly what the doctrine wants you to do, what the system wants you to do. If I is a system, I hire you to that church as a pastor. So when you go there, you got to preach according to what the system wants in order for the system to pay you. I'm going to sit down on you to preach to me. Jimmy Papa. I know who the Israelites are. I know who are the true people. Now the dumb people are in Israel there. They call Israel. They call themselves Jewish. They are not the true one. Anyway. I have to go there because they mention religious to pray for this, for that. When that does not pray in a formula, it does not fit in a formula of a prayer. Anyway, this is Frank. Thank you for being on today. Share the live, subscribe, ask others to subscribe because before the year end, we want to reach a certain number, all right? So, this is WCC again. This is a message that we have to bring to our people. Again, let me say this. This is not about talking against any nation. It's about African people and for African continent and African nation. Is not in favor of whosoever or against whosoever. This platform is an educational area that we come to uplift, to educate our people. Is not there speaking for the West. We do not speak for the West. We speak for black interest and for black nation. That's why we speak for, and that's what this channel is about. It is a pan-African channel. It is not a channel that speaks on any issue related to anybody. No. Because other people can defend themselves, they can fight for themselves, they have the media, they have the courage. We don't have it. So we make that clear. So it's now speaking against any nation or for any nation. We are there to bring awareness to the African leaders, to the African masses, to wake up and take directions that will benefit the continent, the nations, and the masses. That's what we're here for. Other than that, we wouldn't be here. We are not against anybody. We are for everybody. But we fight for our interests, just how other people fight for their interests. I repeat, we are not against anybody. We are for everybody. But we fight for our interests, just how other people are fighting for their interests. Having said that, a hint is why it's quite sufficient. What is well said and spoken can be explained further. Peace.
The white power structure, because that's all we have in America. And the white power structure today is just as much interested in perpetuating slavery as the white power structure was 100 years ago.